Before this video starts, I want to first off say thank you guys for 200 subscribers. I know it's not a large number, but I appreciate each one of you guys. So today I want to share the stocks I like best, do a quick elevator pitch on them. Some of them, or most of them, I've already explained before, but perhaps you guys haven't seen it, or you guys might want a refresher, see where my thoughts are just now that price has changed. And one announcement that I want to make is I'm going to be starting some sort of series, just kind of helping people start from day one and really get integrated in the markets, because a lot of my friends will ask me or tell me they want to start, and they ask me, like, what do I do first? And, they ask for advice, and I could have a conversation with each and every one of them. But ultimately speaking, it's not going to help that much. So I don't have the most experience. There's people who have much more experience than me, maybe people with 30 years of experience. I have 8 years of experience and I'm relatively young, so this 8 years has been extremely active and I've read hundreds of books. So I'm going to break down many different subjects: how to start, how you're meant to feel emotionally. I'm going to go into depth on certain books, how others have succeeded, go over technical analysis, fundamental analysis. I'm going to try to go over basically every topic over quite a long time. And hopefully that helps a lot of my friends who are watching my videos and others just be able to get a start from square one. Because right now, honestly, you can learn plenty of different things, but it's really hard to find direction. And a lot of knowledge you might learn might be outdated, or you might be just learning false things that are reinforced by luck. So that's part of the reason I want to do this. But to get started with things I like right now, I'm going to first bring up a company called Hydrate, which the ticker is NURS. It also trades over the counter as HYDTF. And basically, I really like this stock because it has the most potential. I'm not going to lie and say that goes without any risk, but essentially this company is in some ways like Hims in the direct-to-consumer aspect, but what makes it really good is Hims is just a single brand that people can order from. Think about a company like Shopify that empowers others to have their website. Hydrate is empowering others to go direct to consumer. And a lot of you guys might think, well, what's their moat? And it's simple as regulatory, that most companies simply cannot do it, and Hydrate allows them to do it. Now, you guys might be saying, oh, this is a dirty penny stock, and I can tell you Hims was about $3 per share a few years ago, so it's not too much different, and this company has very good potential. But yeah, essentially, call it the Shopify of telemed, and that's the elevator pitch. United Healthcare is a company that I don't like at all. It's not the best company. It's a Dow component known as a blue chip. I'm not a fan of this kind of investing, simply because you're in for 5 years making very mediocre gains, and then you lose all your gains within 3 weeks. So it's not great, but at every company has a price that's right. Essentially, it's kind of like every junk car has a price where it's still worth buying. And right now is essentially that price for United Healthcare, because is it going to disappear like some speculate? Is there fraud ongoing? Maybe, maybe not. But essentially, a lot of people thought CrowdStrike was going to disappear after the outage. It tumbled like around 70% or so, and it recovered all the way. So do I expect it to recover all the way? I'm actually not quite sure about that. But to recover till around 400, maybe 450, I think is actually relatively easy. And unlike other companies, this is one of the only companies where you can literally buy where the CEO and CFO bought. And a lot of people recently have been getting hyped about AMD's COO buying $1 million worth of shares. These guys, the CEO and CFO of United Healthcare, have put in $30 million just recently. So this is really nice, because a lot of times the CEO is in from the start. A lot of times they get some sort of awards, options, whatever it is. And what they own doesn't matter that much, and it's really hard to gauge things. this is one of those companies where you're actually seeing real significant insider buying, and at the current prices, when random people are saying it's a fraud, you can either trust them or you can trust the CEO and buy for yourself. So there's that. Next Vision. This is one of my favorites because I think this is one of the highest quality companies. And essentially, Next Vision, it's very simple. It's cameras for drones, and specifically military drones. Now, I don't need to get into it too much, but basically everybody knows that drones are an upcoming trend. It's kind of like secular growth. So these drones, obviously, they need cameras, and Next Vision has extremely good margins, great growth, and it's essentially a monopoly in the space other than one Chinese company which can't compete against it for security reasons. And this only trades on the Tel Aviv, so if you're using something like Interactive Brokers, that's good. You can probably get into something like this. If not, well, that's kind of unfortunate. P6 is a really nice one. And this one is simply backup power generators. If you're bullish on AI in terms of usage, which I'm pretty sure everybody is, well, this is your stock. Because with AI, you don't know many things. You don't know if OpenAI will be the best or Gemini, whatever it is. But for the most part, we all know that AI is going to see increasing usage year after year, generation after generation. And the winner is obviously going to be power, because everybody knows AI is consuming a lot of power. Like, these chips might become obsolete, but power is a necessity no matter what. So that's P6. And this is actually pretty crazy because this is one of those companies that trades at a single digit PE with like insane growth. And you just really can't compare. Like, it has its own risks, namely tariff risks and stuff like that. But with how Trump has moved recently, I don't think that's something to be too concerned of. Valera is one of the best oil operators. Just how management has taken this company, and it has a very robust balance sheet. Now, I'm actually not that bullish on oil. In fact, I'm not even sure I'm bullish at all on oil, but I do think oil has its value in terms of like just general portfolio diversity, maybe a hedge against stagflation. 2022 is pretty bad for assets, but oil stocks did really good. So it has a place in its portfolio. And I like Valera because I think out of all the oil companies, it's the best and it's just the most undervalued, but not in the kind of bad value trap way. I think this is just a real gem. Sezzle is a really interesting one. This is just a buy now, pay later thing. Company had a huge lift in their guidance. So as you can see, the stock's gone pretty vertical, partially because the market, partially because the earnings, but I think it still has a good runway. This is one of those stocks where it's kind of morally incorrect to own it almost, because the idea of buy now, pay later is honestly something that's basically going to enslave generations. But as a trader, you should be unbiased and you should completely absence your mind from politics, morals, any of that stuff, other than the purpose of seeing the trends that are happening. So essentially, the buy now, pay later will trap people for time to come, and people are suffering, they're relying on this kind of thing, and it's probably making their situation much worse ultimately because they're buying things they shouldn't. But yeah, this is a good stock to own in my opinion. The only thing that I really do dislike is the CFO dumped a ton of his shares at about 75, and I don't know if that guidance boost was to really lift the stock before he dumped. It just makes me a little bit uncomfortable because, executives sell for many reasons, but typically they sell at a gradual pace. Like, the CFO dumping 80% of his shares at once is just very odd. But out of all the buy now, pay later companies, like, you've probably seen Klarna getting like hammered, bad news, and just losing money. This is a great operator. So if you want exposure in that sector, this is the one. AppLovin is a very interesting story. I kind of see this as like Meta in a way, but not in the same way, just ad tech. They have about as many users in an indirect way, but essentially this has a more rich valuation than the other companies I've showed you, which is the one thing that I don't really like about it. But it's quite deserved in the sense that it has a very good management. who have all driven the growth really well, and I think there's an extremely long runway, so this can probably compound for years to come. Now, something else that's kind of interesting to me, and I wasn't sure if I should even put this in the video, is a company called Hash. This is a cannabis company. A lot of you guys probably have dabbled in cannabis stocks here and there, and honestly speaking, I'd be surprised if you guys have won, just because the sector's been pretty poor. But unlike a lot of other cannabis stocks for continually burning money, I mean, this is the same right now, but management is projecting that they're going to essentially print money. And I don't know if that's true, because that's, it's a lot of talk, a little action, but there's a chance. Now, you see this as a penny stock. It's trading at less than 50 cents. If what management says is true, this is probably a 4-bagger, maybe more. But I'm a little bit skeptical, and I'm not quite confident on the space. Like, I do think that weed in general is a growing industry, but I don't know. Like, this company, it has such a good potential runway, but recently they've missed the deadline twice, essentially, on the Q4 financials, asking for extensions. Is it because of fraud? I would guess not, but this is to the point where, like, the risk is so high, and the reward is high too, but I mean, I pretty rarely look at stocks where they can actually go to zero, essentially, and this one could get delisted in a worst case scenario, and a worst case scenario is actually kind of close. It's still on the lower chance and lower, it's unlikely, but there's a lot of risk associated with this. But I do think if you're looking at weed stocks, this is probably the one you want to look at. And lastly, the only large cap, because I pretty much stray away from them for the most part. I don't think you can make that much money as a retail investor in large caps. But Nvidia is something that is kind of interesting for me as a large cap. And the main reason is because all the other large caps have either major problems like Google in terms of being disrupted, they either have no growth like Apple and they're just doing buybacks, or they're completely absurd valuations like Tesla and they're just story stocks. Nvidia has the growth. It has a somewhat modest valuation relative to its growth. And why I kind of like this one is simply because I think it's at the point that Apple was quite a few years back. Now, Apple was kind of stuck at the 1 trillion market cap, and it almost became kind of a glass ceiling. Once it broke that, it seemed to just quickly rush into the 2 and then eventually 3 trillion market caps, even though it was not really that much better of a company. It was almost all multiple expansion. I think right now, with Nvidia's reasonable multiple, it's actually at a point where it's having that same glass ceiling, and when it can finally break 3, it's going to be huge. And they have their earnings pretty soon. They've consolidated and made a base for a pretty long time. I think it's about time for this one to rip to the next levels, and if anybody's reaching 5 trillion, maybe even 10 trillion market cap, I do think it's Nvidia. Now, I say this with caution, and this is going to be the last stock I bring up today, because semiconductors have known to be cyclical, and when their multiples look best is often when the peak is in. So I say that I think this could go to 5 and maybe 10 trillion, but out of all the stocks I talked about, this is the largest, and yet I still have the least conviction. But I did think it's worth bringing up one large cap, because I know lots of others are not interested in small or medium caps. But yeah, that's all for this video. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to ask. I respond. And if you guys have any special requests for my series for learning, I will probably cover most topics, but in the chance that you have a certain topic that you really, really want to be there and you think it's a little bit more niche, don't think I'll hit it, definitely just leave a comment and I'll make sure to make a video on that too. Thank you.